We're in the Gemara and Daf Chav Zayin Amud Aleph, in the Bavli, Maseches Gittin, on the top by the Mishna. Maybe get v'yovadim, and if somebody brings a get and he lost it, mitzoy la'alter kosher. If you found it right away, it's kosher. B'im lav pasul. If not, it's pasul. Why? Rashi explains maybe it fell from someone else and it doesn't belong to you. Mitzoy b'chfisa b'tluskama. If you found it in a certain kli which belongs to you, imakira kosher. If you recognize it, it's kosher. According to Rashi, if you recognize it's kosher, it's something else. If you found it in something that belongs to you, it's kosher. Or if you recognize the get, if you have markings which tell you that it's yours, then it's kosher. If you're unsure, then you have to have found it right away. So the Gemara says like this. There's a contradiction. It says, Gittin noshim v'shichruri avodim. Do we have an iron? Okay, whatever. Gittin noshim v'shichruri avodim daisiki matanas v'shayvrim hadei zeh lo yachzer. If you found Gittin noshim, which is the bill of divorce, v'shichruri avodim, documents of freedom, daisiki, which Rashi explains, is the will of a shchiv mirah. This should be established. This should happen. Gifts and receipts, you don't return it. You don't return it to the husband. You don't return it to the wife. So the Gemara says, you don't give it back to anyone. Then it was written, they decided not to give it. But if he said to give it, you could give it even after a long amount of time. So how come in our Mishna it says? In our Mishna it says that if you found it later, you shouldn't even use it. The get is disqualified. Here, it was lost for a long period of time. If the husband said to give it, you could give it. Rabba says, Lekasha. If the shayoris are mitzuyas, it's possible. If there's a lot of other people passing by, it's possible because it could have come from someone else. If there's not a lot of other people, so then you can be lenient and you can give it back. You can assume that it's not a different get. Even if we're talking about a place where there's a lot of shayoris, our Mishnah is really only talking about if you have two people with the same name in the same town. If you have two people in the same name with the same town, then you have a problem if you lose your get. But if there's no chazaka, if you're not sure that there's two people with the same name, we're not going to say misafik that there's two people with the same name. Or there's another city with the same name. That we're not going to go. Only if it's huchzaku. If you're not going to say this, this is the Gemara. Kasha de Rabba de Rabba. There's going to be a contradiction in the words of Rabba himself. There was a get that was found in the Bezdin of Rav Huna. There's a guy who wanted it. He wanted the get, but they found it. It didn't come from him.
I wonder why they don't give a description of the person. Say this person's tall, and then there's another Yosef. What's his name? Two people with the same name, right? So one's short, one's tall. That might be a good way to.
Interesting point. I don't know the answer. It's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they didn't have as much as they have now as far as description goes, but
right. Interesting. So what's the story? There was a get in the Bezdin of Rav Huna. said in the get that in the town of Shvili Mosa by the river, by the Rechis Nara, that's what it said. Huna said we're worried that there's two towns of the same name. Rav Chisda heard about the story and he told Rabba, go quickly look and investigate. Because tomorrow Rav Huna is going to ask this question from you. Nofak, Dok Vashkach Titnan, he went and he researched and he found that it says in the Mishnah,
Sorry, David, I'm coming in late. Where are you?
oh yeah, sure. We're in the Gemara in the Bavli, Daf Chav Zayin Amud Aleph, in the middle of the page. We just established that according to Rabba, that if you find a get, you don't give it back, or you don't use it. You can't use it if you only found it later. It's only if there's shayotis mitzuyas that it could be that the get fell from somebody else, and we know that there's somebody else with the same name in the same town. And we just had a story. I'll say it over. Dahu gito dishtakach beidina de Rav Huna. There's a get in the bezin that was found in the bezin of Rav Huna. And the place for the get was the town of Shvili Mosa out of Chisnara. It's a certain town by a certain river. So the question is, they only knew that there was one guy in that town with that name, so the get belonged to him. And Rav Huna said, we're worried that there's another town with the same name, even though there's no chazaka. So Rav Chisda heard about this case. So it's in the middle of the page. Rav Chisda told Rabba, go and look into this case. Tomorrow, Rav Huna is going to ask this question from you. He found that it says in the Gemara in Maseches Bava Metzia, in the Mishna in the Maseches Bava Metzia, somebody who found the star that was validated by Bezin, it was Mekuyim by Bezin. So one of the chashish, one of the worries we have when it comes to a star, like we said before, is that you're worried that the person wrote it but he didn't actually use it. But if it's Mekuyim in Bezin, there's no chash. You don't have to worry that it wasn't meant to be used. You give it back. You give it back to the person. It says in Rashi, the reason why a person would be Mekayim Mishtar and Bezin not relying Eidim is, let's say he's worried, let's say the Eidim are going to die or something. So he wants to have the stamp of Bezin. That is validated forever.
That's a pretty big cup you have. Pretty big cup you have, Duffy.
Oh, it's not coffee. It's just cold water.
No, but I'm saying it's a big cup.
It's a big cup. That's true. Maybe I shouldn't be drinking so much water because I have a drive. Since we finished the year. Maybe I shouldn't be drinking so much water because I have a long drive ahead of me. It's never good to drink too much when you're on the drive.
Summertime, it's hot and humid.
Okay, so what does it say? You give it back. So he said to give it back. Rabba wanted to disagree with Rav Huna and say that you should give it back. We're not chayshish l'shnei shvidei. Well, Beidino, the Rav Huna, the Kemochim, Shachayotis Mitzuyas, the Bezin of Rav Huna was a very central place.
It's plugged in. Oh, okay. Plugged in.
Many people would come to the Bezin of Rav Huna.
Near the bottom of Amud Aleph, Kaf side. Amud Aleph.
Yeah, about 10 lines in the bottom. Shachayotis Mitzuyas Dami. The Bezin of Rav Huna was a place where there was a lot of caravans, and Rav Huna said Yachzer. No, Rabbah said Yachzer. Almo, what do we see? Only if you have,
what happened. He disappeared. And his father was on it, got logged on later.
Yeah, I'm here.
Take that drink.
Hossein,
Upside, Amud Olive, near the end. So wait till he comes back. I can't. So right near the end of that dot. So, but Amud Olive. That's somewhere around there, I think.
My
Pretty
apologies.
sure
I'm
they'll
sorry.
be on.
I'm sorry. Okay, so we're still in the middle. We see only if you have two Yosef and Shimon's in the same town do you worry, and there's Shayotis Mitsuya, so that it's possible to get dropped from the second Yosef and Shimon. Then you have a problem. If not, not. Rabbo Paskin, there was a certain place of flax in Pumpadisa. There was a get that was found in a certain place of flax in Pumpadisa. According to his teaching, that you need to have both. You need to have Shayotis Mitzuyas and Shnei Yosef, Huchzaku Shnei Yosef and Shimon. So, yeah. So basically, there's a lot of room to return the get. It's not easy to say not to return the get. Like, if you just read our Mishna, it seems like you return the get right away. You don't return the get. Sorry, don't return the get. From the Gemara, we learn from Rabbah that it's not so simple. In most cases, you do return the get unless there's a lot of passerby. Plus, there's Huchzaku Shnei Yosef and Shimon Birachas. Ikadamri, let's go to one. I'm in the middle of the shit. Ikadamri bedukta heicha de toru kisna was in a place where they combed the flax. The huchzaku, even though there was huchzaku that there was two people in the same place. Nevertheless, there weren't the enough passerby to warrant not returning the get. Viga Damri bedukta de mizavne kisa was a place where they sold the flax. We didn't have Shnei Yosef and Shimon Beirachas, but there were passerby. Still, there was room to be lenient and give back the get. Says the Gemara, Reb Zera Rami Basnisan Abraisa. Reb Zera asked. He said there's a contradiction between the Mishnah and the Braisa. Because in our Mishnah it says lo yachzir, you shouldn't use it. If you lose your get, you don't use it. In the Brisa we said return it. How do you say yachzir? Mashani Tnana maybe get v'oven. It says in the Mishnah maybe get the oven imenu imatzoy la'alter kosher v'imlav fossil. So this is the question. This is his question. First we bring the question, then we'll bring his answer. So the question is, it says in the Mishnah that if you bring a get and it was lost, if you found it right away, it's kosher. If not, it's possible. But Aminu, there's a contradiction. Motza get isha b'shuk. If you found the get of a woman in the shuk, bisman she'abal moide yachzir, in a time when the husband is moide yachzir liisha. If he's moide that it's his get and he gave it to the woman, you give it to her.
Next page.
But the husband doesn't admit that he gave it to his wife. You don't give it to the husband because maybe he had already given it to his wife. Yeah. We're worried that maybe he did divorce her and then she's not going to be able to collect her ksuba if you give it to the husband. That will be his proof that he had already paid the ksuba, and you don't give it to the wife because he doesn't say it's yours. Oh, bisman. We're turning to the next page to Daf Chazayin Amud Beis. Oh, bisman shabal moide mias yachzir liisha. if the husband is maida, you're machzir leisha. Bafilu lizman meruba, even for a long period of time. Mishani kan b'makom shayoris mitzuyos, kan b'makom she'ena shayoris mitzuyos. Our Mishnah is talking about b'makom shayoris mitzuyos, where there's a lot of passerbys. That's why we're strict. The Rise is talking about b'makom she'ena shayoris mitzuyos. Yikadami b'hu hu deloyli hader. Tainu derabba. There are those who say it's only shehuchzaku shaloyli hader. You don't give back the get if there's two Yosef and Shimons in the same city. I don't know why the Gemara chose the name Yosef and Shimon. And that's exactly what Rabbah said, Rabbah's opinion. There's another version which is afagav de lo yuchzaku, even though if you don't have two Yosef and Shimons, loyli hader, ufliga de Rabbah. That's arguing with Rabbah. Bishma de Rabbah lo yamer kereb zeda mas nisan alim alei lakshuye. Makes sense that Rabbah he doesn't want to say like Rabbah. Because the Mishnah, according to Rabbah, the Mishnah is the main thing. This it makes sense that Rabbah didn't say like Rab Zaydo because he had a Mishnah in Bava Metzia. Rabbah had two Mishnahs. Mishnah in Maseches Gittin, where it says that you don't use the get if you lost it, and the Mishnah in Maseches Bava Metzia, where it's talking about a monetary document. But it makes sense why he asked from the Mishnah, because you want to ask from the Mishnah rather than a Brisa. Mishnah is stronger than a Brisa. Why didn't Reb Zayda bring like Rabbah from the Mishnah and Maseches Bava Metzia? Why did he bring from a Brisa? Amar Loch. He'll tell you, Miktani Momar Tnu Noisnin Vafilu Lizman Meruba. Does it say that if does it say in Maseches Bava Metzia if he said Tnu Noisnin even after a long period of time? Maybe it's the altar. This said it says in Maseches Bava Metzia, if he said Tnu Noisnin, it's only the altar. It's only immediately, just like by Gittin, Matzoi the altar kosher. However, when it comes to the brisa that he brought, which is about Gittin, says Rashi, it says Yachzir Isha. It must be, the Chiddush must be that we're talking about Achar Zman, because if it would be Miyad, it would be obvious. Rabbi Yirmiyah said, he has another answer. How could you say Yachzir? Both the Mishnah and the Brisa, the Mishnah Maseches Bava Metzia and the Brisa Masech in our Brisa in Gittin. For example, if the Yedim who are signed in it say, we only signed for one person by the name of Yosef, so we know there's only one such star. The member, so what's the Chiddush? Why do we need this Brisa to tell us that? Obviously, if they say there's only one such star, you give it to the people who are, the Yosef, this Yosef and Shimon. Maybe there's the same Edim with the same name on the other star. That we're not choshesh with such a thing. We don't worry about such a thing. For example, if the shliach who lost it says there's a hole next to a certain letter, that it's a siman muvhak, it's a clear siman. But not a regular hole. Yeah. Ravashi had a suffix if Simonim are deraisa and derabbanan. So if the Simonim are derabbanan, then you're going to say that this you give back a lost object. Midaraisa, it's only if you have eidim. The Chachamim made a special takana that if you lose something, you can use a simon. So that's why he requires a simon muvok, a simon which is mamish, a clear simon. Rabba bar Chana, a yarkis like Gita be midrash, he lost the get in the base medrash. It's not a great thing to lose. Omar Yisimon Isli Begave, Tviaseni Isli Begave. He said, I have both, I could recognize it, plus I have a simon. They returned it to him. Omar Leodani, Mishum Simona Drua, because I was Simona Deraisa. I don't know if it was because of the simon, Mishum Tviasena, or because I was able to recognize it, and they only trusted me because I'm a Talmud Chacham. If it's because of a simon, it would work for anybody. If it's because of Tviasena, it's only for a Talmud Chacham. V'im lav pasul. If not, it's possible. We're up to the 2 dots on the bottom of Zayin Amud Beis. If it wasn't L'alter, it's possible. Tan Rabbanon is Shali Alter. What does it mean Shaloi L'alter? No, so name Rishashoka they should taver Shayora v'Tishra. It was enough time for a caravan to pass and stay there, so that it could have fallen from another caravan. A person has to see that there is nobody else who passed. Up until that time, it's considered li'alter. Some people say even if a person passed, it's okay, as long as the person didn't stay there. The time it takes to write another get. Very short period of time. To read it. I don't understand the reason for that. If you have simonim muvhakim, then it works. If you have a simon muvhak, like a very clear simon. For example, you say there's a hole next to a certain letter. You can't testify that it was long or short. That's not considered a simon. That's not a simon muvhak. Mitzvah kosher b'kis. They found that it was attached to like a pouch, a wallet, or a ring. We're on the next page now on Daf Chof Ches Amud Aleph. Or you found it among your clay bias. Even after a long period of time, it's kosher. That's like what we said in our Mishna. The halacha is, yeah, it's long enough so that there's nobody else who stayed there in that spot. Nobody passed there. That's the halacha. That's what it seems is really the halacha. Why don't you just say the name of the Tana? Why do you have to say the exact what they hold? Just why do you have to say the position? Just say the halacha is like Mar. Because the names got switched. Some people have different versions of the name, so they have to say the did. So it's a small jug. My dluskama taliko de save. And what is that? It says a sock, like a bag, a certain type of bag. Not sure exactly. Let's see if it says something here. I have the Safaria. No, 28A. Of the elderly, the Sove. Okay, it's like a bag for the elderly. I think we'll probably stop here. We have to catch up on the Yerushalmi, but.
So it's Camp Amuna in the Catskills, right?